This morning, we received official notice from the FTA that our recovery plan, which we submitted on June 3rd, has been approved. I would tell you that this is both a joyous and a historic day for us, and I'm so proud and so very pleased. And so I want to direct my comments, first and foremost, to the leadership that created this opportunity for us. And I'll start off with Lori Kaikina. You know, we all began in this endeavor pretty much at the same time. Sunday will make 21 months since we got sworn into office. And I think back on what January of 2021 was like, it was a very difficult time. Not the least of which is when we went into this rail project, which we knew was going to be a monumental task, we'd also lost credibility with the FTA. You know, they were clear in their statements to us, even prior to my coming into office, that what we needed to do was to be able to have a show of unity in our thinking and the kind of discord that had gone on, not the least of which is the former CEO was fired, the P3 had been pulled, a lot of other things that were impacting their perception of Honolulu's ability to do this project could not have been at a lower point. So it was a very difficult starting point. And I would tell you that at that point, as bullish as I was, as confident as I was, that if we worked together, given the people who I really didn't even know, I didn't know Lori Kaikina, I didn't know Roger Morton, I didn't know John Nouchi, I didn't know anybody at the FTA. You know, but I had enough sense that we could do this thing together, that this had to be a solution to this. So to come 21 months later, despite the fact that we had to work our way through COVID and everything else, which was more than a distraction early on in our time in office, I'm exceptionally proud today. And I'm very grateful to the hard work, to the dedication of Lori Kaikina in the leadership role. You know, a lot gets said about political will, a lot gets said about really, quite honestly, leadership skills in order to get things done, and this is the personification of that. You know, Lori made a lot of tough decisions early on, and I listened to the criticism of those decisions, and she went in there beyond her technical skills, but went in there with a big task at hand, given the history of the project. And quietly and very effectively, she and Rick Keene is in the room, her deputy director, and their team over at HART, and the revisions that they made to that team all proved to be very, very solid, despite the criticism. And she stood tall on something she had never done before. And as I said to her earlier this morning, for all that she accomplished for the city and county in her role for the past 8 years, or prior to, as the director of ENV, that this was an unprecedented challenge for her, and she more than rose to the occasion. I could not be any prouder or more grateful for somebody in what Lori has done in her leadership, because I could see it. We met weekly. I could see the strain in her eyes. I would listen to her talk about the effort that she was making and the fact that this was just a never-ending pursuit here of trying to make some sense out of something that, quite honestly, when we were handed, didn't make a whole lot of sense. We just knew the responsibility that was at hand. So I want to thank Lori and her team for what they got done. Rick is in the room, especially want to acknowledge you. Joey Manahan's in here. All of you have hung together. We were over there last week. Really proud of this organization. You've come a long way in less than 2 years. The next people I want to acknowledge and thank is Nuria Fernandez, who's the administrator at the FTA, and Ray Tellis, who's the regional administrator. You know, we were back there to meet with them in January earlier this year, after a year of being on the project. And quite honestly, it was my first time ever meeting an FTA administrator. But they made it pretty clear in that meeting that the bar was going to be held real high. And we weren't ready to submit a recovery plan at that point, but they were pretty exacting about their demands and who they were and the responsibility, quite honestly, that we were facing, given the magnitude of this project and what it represented to the FTA and, quite honestly, what it represented on the national landscape of projects that were being done with federal support. And not lost on us that they had pulled back from the table since 2017. Much was said about the $744 million that they were withholding. And candidly speaking, you could feel it because we were there. And while they wanted to be encouraging to us, that there had been a real loss of confidence in our ability to execute this project. And so to have them, you know, help guide us and work with us, because Lori's been on calls with them. We had that meeting. We said we owned the responsibility. We would be back to them with a recovery plan. And to get their approval means a whole lot. It means everything, actually, because without that approval, I wouldn't be here right now. And so this is a day that we look forward to. As I said earlier, it's joyous and historic for us. The other person I want to thank tremendously is Colleen Hanabusa. I remember the press conference we took right outside the day I wanted to appoint Colleen to the board. And it was speculation and concern and everything else, and I was unwavering in that. I was unwavering in my commitment and my belief in Colleen. I had enough conversations with her. Quite honestly, having campaigned against her, I knew and could feel her insight on the rail. And not only did she get on the board, but within really a very little amount of time was voted on unanimously to be the chair of that board. And that really then empowered her to exude the leadership and the knowledge that she had. In fact, she's been reelected twice unanimously by that board. Colleen's participation in this endeavor has made a tremendous difference. And to have the HART board and the HART leadership aligned compared to what was going on prior was no insignificant matter. It was really a tremendous, tremendous melding, if you will, of what was, quite honestly, not only discord, but was lending itself to the dysfunction that was going on with the rail project. So I owe Colleen a tremendous debt of gratitude for her vision and for her willingness. She didn't have to do this. I was so pleased when she told me she was interested in doing it. I had hoped that she would want to do it. I really did. And so it's made all the difference, and I can't say enough about her. Great leadership, hard work, incredible knowledge, incredible passion and caring for what happens on this island. So that's off to you, Colleen. Thank you. I would be remiss if I didn't mention Tommy Waters, who we also invited into the meetings. One of the things that Jane Williams, the outgoing FTA administrator, said to me, he said, Rick, I think more than anything, you really need to kind of get your act together in Honolulu. What we were perceiving is that there were a lot of people who weren't talking to each other, who needed to talk to each other. And so early on, once we began meeting with Rick and Lori, and then remember, we were under COVID. I couldn't even put more than 5 people in a room. But once the restrictions started to lift, we started building on the crowd that would come there. And we invited Tommy to come, and he would come because I thought it was very important for City Council, and especially the leadership of the City Council, to be in attendance, to have a voice, to understand what it was we were trying to accomplish. So I want to thank Tommy. He's not in here today, but I appreciate the effort that he made. I appreciated the involvement with that. And I want to add to that, I've said all along, I've been really blessed that Roger Morton wanted to be part of our cabinet. He left running the bus to come over. The man has more than 4 decades of incredible experience. And Roger and John Nouchi have been at the table. And even though their role hasn't been in the construction, if you will, in the planning for the construction, they've had a big voice in that. And I have every confidence when we get ready, or when the time comes ready, to hand it over to the city in Roger's hands, that we're going to be in good shape. And we'll let Lori talk about that, or maybe we'll answer that later as far as what we're anticipating. But Roger, it's been a godsend to have you in the room as well. I mean it. I'm serious. I'm looking over here at this room, and this is the reason why this is happening today, because of the brilliance of these people, the commitment of these people, and their determination, because this took determination. There are a lot of loose ends to put together. I promise you that. So the other person I want to say, he's not here this morning. I just left him in Kona this morning. I just flew in from the Hawaii Executive Conference, is Mike Formby, our managing director. Mike Formby, I say all the time right now, is in such a pivotal role and critical role in this city, but Mike's knowledge of the rail and his contributions and his involvement has been invaluable. So I have nothing but the greatest respect for Mike, but he was, you want to talk about exacting. He's a very demanding guy on what we needed to get done, and understanding that what we had to put on the table was going to be intelligible, it would be meaningful, and it would work. And so Mike has brought a tremendous addition. It was great that Mike and Colleen had such a good working relationship together. This was just really, in closing here, turn it over to Lori here to give you the details. This is a great team effort, and I'm really, really proud. And I'm really proud because we pulled it out at a time when everybody said you couldn't do it. And what we got done was unprecedented, and I'll let Lori talk about that. This is no small achievement for the City and County of Honolulu today, and for HART and everybody that I just named related to this project, and for everybody else, for that matter, that's worked on this project for a long time. So I say in this moment for the last time, I'm very proud today. I'm very proud to introduce Lori Kaikina to you.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate the kind words. So just want to share with you folks. You'll get a copy of the actual letter that we received this morning from Ray Tellez, the FTA. But the gist of what the letter is saying is, as Mayor said, they've accepted our recovery plan as is. We won't have to increase our estimate at cost or our funding. So as is as of right now. They are committed to working with us. They will release the $125 million, the first tranche, after the full funding grant agreement is amended. Rick Keene is going to work closely on that with the FTA, and we hope to get that done and approved before the end of the year. But you know, we have to go back and forth with them. The second tranche, which is $250 million, will be when HART awards the City Center Guideway Station contract, which is slated for the 2024 timeframe. And then the last comment in there is they're still doing the evaluation on the environmental side on whether a supplemental will need to be done because of the truncated scope. So that's the gist of the letter. You'll get a copy, and we will post it. We're actually going to announce this to our full board, so everything will be posted on our board site today. As Mayor said, this is unprecedented. As far as I know, FTA has not amended a full funding grant agreement. I think maybe in Puerto Rico. But for them to write a letter to me in December that they're amenable to amending it, they wanted to have discussions. They knew we were having funding issues and cost increases, and partially due to COVID, they're amenable to amending the full funding grant agreement. And they wanted it done by June 30th. And all of us, administration, board, HART, we thought we had plenty of time. But when you have to backtrack on what the approval process is, you know, Mayor mentioned Tommy Waters, you have to have board approval. So thank goodness our chair is on board and understands what we need to do. She was instrumental in getting the board on board in approving our recovery plan. Once it passed the board, you needed city council approval and then submitted to FTA. And we submitted about a month ahead of schedule, which is also in that letter. They thanked us for getting it in ahead of schedule. And then they approved this within 4 months. I understand the last time that HART submitted a recovery plan to them, it took 18 months for them to approve it. And even at that point, they still did not release any of the tranches. So we are so, so grateful to FTA for this opportunity. I would like to take the time to thank my deputy, as Mayor mentioned, Rick Keene. I know he hates getting recognition, but he was instrumental in writing that recovery plan. We did hire a consultant, but Rick actually took over that and wrote the thing. With partnership with our stakeholders, DTS, and our staff, he put that thing together, and we were able to get it approved within 4 months. And the others I would like to thank is our stakeholders, whether it's the city administration, our HART board, city council, but all the other stakeholders that are working with us, including now that we're going to go into construction, we have Kamehameha Schools, HECO, the city departments. Mayor mentioned DTS. DTS is our partner in this. They helped write part of the recovery plan, and they are hand in hand with us all along the way. We're running test case scenarios with them this week, and we're going to have another big one on October 22nd. But the city departments have been incredible, whether it's DPP, DTS, ENV, Board of Water Supply. We have to get all of our plans 100% approved by them, and they have been so phenomenal. They approve our permits and our plans so quickly because they know this is such a huge project for not just the city, but for the community. Other than that, I just want to thank you folks, the media. You folks have actually been pretty fair with us lately. I know it was rough when we took over. It was hard. You know, as Mayor said, he could see the stress in my eyes every week when we're meeting with him. It's hard. It's hard to get attacked constantly. I mean, even for my family and my friends. And it was like a safeguard coming home at HART because I had such the support of my team. But you folks have really turned things around. I can't go out at least once a week without someone from the public approaching me and thanking HART for what we are doing to try to write this project. Before I hand it over to our board chair, I do want to give an update on how the project is doing, right? My deputy always says, now is the time, proof is in the pudding. We are in construction now. We have to execute, and we have to stay on our schedule and our budget. So we just awarded the city center utility relocation for Dillingham, that is with non. And we gave them limited NTP, and we're going to give them full NTP next week. I anticipate shovel to ground in that Dillingham corridor early next year, but non feels they can start probably before the end of the year. Coluccio is doing the downtown area. They are already doing potholing and jet grouting. So it is going to be painful for the community, for the businesses, the residents, people driving along that corridor, but it's a necessary evil. But between our contractors, our own PI team, we will get out there and notify the public as much as we can. We have monthly meetings to know where you're going to be impacted, what streets, what areas, and just try to get out there as much as possible. We are in trial running. We started that on August 29th. I've been pretty public about it all year, 90 days. The 90 days was an estimate that HART gave Hitachi to finish the scenarios. Now that we are actually in trial running, there's 144 scenarios that Hitachi has to accomplish. DTS, HART, and Hitachi themselves are evaluating each scenario, and we all need to pass those scenarios. And once we pass, then we go into service availability. And that you need to do, or Hitachi needs to have a 98.5% uptime for 30 days running average. So if at 30 days they're only at 98%, we keep extending until they reach that 98.5%. We are not in a hurry. Safety is paramount to us. And if we go past the first quarter of next year, that's when we're slated to hand it over to DTS and the city. So be it. We have to pass these scenarios appropriately so we know the system is safe. The last thing is the hammerheads. So the hammerheads has been an issue, and that's the same thing. Safety is paramount. If those hammerheads extend past the trial running, we're not opening. We're not handing this back over to DTS. So the update on the hammerheads is today we actually anticipated an update from the structural engineers. Informally, they've told us verbally that things look optimistic, but I won't get that written report until they've asked for a 1-week extension, so that's next week. And my understanding is our structural engineer of record, which is HNTB, and our third-party Wish Janey structural engineer are in agreement on what some possible solutions are, and we've now roped in Consor, which is DTS structural engineer. And so hopefully by the end of next week, we can get something in writing what the fixes can be for the hammerheads, the timing, the schedule, and possibly any cost, how much this would be. With that, before I open up to questions, I'd like to invite our board chair to say a few words.
It is an amazing day, one that actually we've been waiting with bated breath. After all, it started, the recovery plan went in June, and this is almost 4 months later. But I do want to say this. This is not at all possible unless you have all branches working together. And though Tommy isn't here, Radiant is, or I thought Radiant was, no. But anyway, whoever represents City Council, they were an integral part of this system as well. It was actually Tommy Waters who asked that we pass a resolution to do the 3%. Remember that infamous 3%, which we knew eventually we would have to rely on. And it was a resolution from the board to the City Council asking them to please go after that 3%. They've lost the TAT from under the law, which gave the city $30-some-odd million. And then, if they could kindly give a portion of it to HART. And the reason HART wanted it was because it would be in perpetuity. And the City Council did exactly that. They did implement it, 1% each year for 2 years, but 1.5% thereafter in perpetuity, which gives HART a different source of funding. And in addition to that, I have to acknowledge the board. I mean, I stand here as the board chair, but it is the board that was absolutely phenomenal in this process. You have to recognize we have 10 under the charter, absolute volunteers. They don't get paid for any of this, they just volunteer. And I have demanded and asked of them a lot, a real lot. It's too bad you can't see Rick Keene back there smiling because he knows exactly what they were demanded to do, and they came through. A volunteer board that came through. The TAT, we were able to present a report to the city council based on a pig. I love pigs, by the way. Not the real ones, but the permitted interactive groups. And that's exactly what we did. Just so you understand that when the recovery plan came about, the board also put in time and effort to constitute itself into a pig for the recovery plan. And I want to make it very clear, this is not a rubber stamp board. We had 11 meetings. We drove Laurie, Rick, and all of their people crazy by asking the questions. But we felt that was the only way we could come up with a plan, or we could support a plan that we were ready to stand behind and go to battle with the FTA if need be. Because even if the FTA were to ask for modifications, it would still be up to the board and possibly city council before we finally make that decision. So we needed to understand, we needed to question, which we did. We needed to challenge them, which we did. And that's why I believe that we have a recovery plan that the FTA has accepted, and in addition to that, a recovery plan and a pig report that went to the city council that they felt comfortable with. And that brings us to where we are here today. The administration of HART is what I refer to Laurie and her group. They were absolutely patient with the board. You can imagine with the types of personalities we have, the questions can range from scratch your head to, that's a good question. But that's from one perspective. It's probably the same perspective from everyone else. But it was the ability to pull together for one thing. And this is what I want all of you and the public to understand. We put everything aside. We parked it at the door, so to speak, because we had one thing in mind. This is the greatest, largest CIP project in the history of this state. You know how much money it's costing us. And for it to work, we had to gain public confidence again. That was the most important part of what we had to achieve, public confidence. And we knew the only way we would be able to gain public confidence is by being as transparent as we could and putting it out there. That's why you heard about hammerheads and the frogs. Laurie made that all very public, even if we took the hits on it, because it was better to beat them to the punch and be able to answer those questions. But in order for the board to support whatever they were planning to do, they had to be transparent to the board, and the board members had to be able to ask those hard questions and feel a level of comfort so that they could back up this project. Because after all, that's what this project is all about. It is about how we are able to show with the mayor, Laurie, DTS, my friend Roger, who we've known each other for many, many years on opposite sides of the table, so to speak. But we bring to this board and this issue and this challenge, first and foremost, a commitment, an absolute commitment to seeing this project through. We may come at it different ways. We may not necessarily agree on the first go-around, but we are together in our commitment to see this project through, because we all believe that it is in the best interest of the city and county of Honolulu and its people, and actually for the whole state. Once this rail is up and running, you will see the impact that it will have on the state. And remember one thing, and we keep losing this in the translation sometimes. The project is really not for our generation in this room. It is for the generations to come. It is going to redefine how our people live in the future. This is what this project means. This is the level of commitment that we have to show this project. We as the board, we as HART, and of course the city administration, who has stood by us in this whole process. And do not forget, the city council as well. And I have to give the shout out to my friends in the Square building, because as people may say, oh my God, the state isn't doing anything, that's absolutely wrong. The funding on this project has been state-driven, whether it's the GET or the TAT. So much so that the FTA, about 2 years ago, told the city and county of Honolulu, you got to get some skin in this game. You don't have any. It's the state that has it. Every time the legislature would moan and groan because we have mismanaged this project in the past, they came through for us, and they continue to come through for us. So they, too, are an integral part of this system and the success that we will hopefully all see. And I'll end with what I call him the mayor's friend, David Shapiro, said, that the only thing I've ever said that made any sense is, after all this time, you don't know how to build rail with only 3 miles to go, you shouldn't do it. But I stand before you in confidence that HART knows how to build rail. And they are going to build it, and they are going to build it well. And yes, it may have taken us a long time to figure it out, but the most important thing is that we have figured it out. So much so that the FTA has come back with basically a no-change recovery plan, which is what we could only wish for and that we've all got. So this is a win for the people of the city and county of Honolulu. Accolades to the HART staff, the mayor who believed in this project and had to take a lot of hits about, no, he wants it to stop at Middle Street. No, he doesn't. That was never the mayor's position. The mayor's position was, we're going all the way to Ala Moana and then some. And to the board and all of its members who've worked so hard on this project, and they now can start up another pig. I told you I love pigs. It's going to be called Ala Moana and beyond. And I have all the fullest confidence in them as well. So thank you. But it's not only us. It's a whole bunch of people that have made this happen. Mahalo, everyone.
Aloha. This certainly is a momentous day for the city and county of Honolulu. And this has been a long time coming, not just the past 2 years, but the past 50 years. We've had rail as in a part of our long-term transportation plan since 1967. We had a project that was ready to go in 1980 and got waylaid. We had another project in 1992 that didn't go follow through. So this time, the third time is the charm. And for DTS, our issue now, our responsibility, our passion is to take our bus system, make some adjustments, and put it together so we can have a fully functioning transit system that'll serve everybody. I look forward very much to the next few months, hopefully, when we can get our system open. I look forward to getting that system extended to the airport and to Middle Street, and then finally getting it to Civic Center. And as Colleen and others have said, that's not the end. We're looking to get the system to Ala Moana and to UH, and further back in Kapolei. So we have a lot of stuff, a lot of distance to go still, but it doesn't take away from the tremendous opportunity we have this day through the recovery plan being approved. I look forward to the Guideway project going out for bid. It will be tough. It'll be tough for our transit riders. It'll be tough for our vehicle drivers. It'll be tough for our local businesses in the impacted areas. But this is really a great day for Honolulu. Thank you very much.